Mom, I don't feel too good.
Oh no, you're sweating like crazy. When Dad gets home, let's take you to the doctor.
I'm home. How's my favorite little Yukon potato?
He says he doesn't feel good. He's been under stress from so many swim practices recently that I'm worried he's coming down with something, so I think we need to take him to the doctor.
So, I hear you might not be feeling so good. What brings you into my office today?
My poor baby hasn't been feeling his best. I've also noticed some weird dark spots on his leaves, and his face looks a bit thinner. He's been in water a lot because of swimming, and I think he may have gotten some sort of infection. They don't clean that pool often enough.
Let's do a physical examination to see what's happening. Oh, it looks like parts of you are sunken in, and those dark green dots are spreading and getting even darker. These are all hallmark symptoms of, I hate to say it, potato blight.
Ugh, potato blight. What is potato blight?
Potato blight is a disease that renders potatoes inedible. It comes in two forms, early and late blight. Early blight is caused by the fungus Alternaria solani, which thrives in warm temperatures and high humidity. Late blight, on the other hand, comes from the oomycete Phytophthora infestans, which is a type of water mold that spreads the disease through its windborne spores. Yukon here was probably infected from his swimming. It's sad, but we get a lot of these cases. Potato blight is a significant and serious issue faced by society as it poses major threats to food security around the globe. For example, it loses the current agricultural industry over 9 billion euros annually. Additionally, it was the rise of Phytophthora infestans and the resulting potato late blight that caused the infamous Great Famine in Ireland during the 1840s. This just highlights how important it is to understand how spores can spread disease and how plants can fight infection.
How do you know that potato blight is what he has?
Potato early blight usually begins as papery flecks, which develop into dark brown or black concentric rings surrounded by yellowing of the surrounding leaves. As the disease progresses, leaves will die and dark irregular spots will populate tubers. Potato late blight, on the other hand, usually starts with small pale to dark green spots on the leaves, eventually turning darker brown or purple. White mold may eventually show up bordering these spots on the underside of the leaves. The white growth consists of branched hyphae, sporangiophores with sporangia, the reproductive organisms of P. infestans. Wind and rain can spread the sporangia throughout the potato crop. If left untreated, it can spread to the main body of the potato tuber as dark spots and show up as dark red or purple areas under the skin. Because of the appearance of dark green spots on your leaves, it looks like a textbook case of potato late blight.
What do you mean he has late blight? How does this thing even work?
Phytophthora infestans starts as an oomycete, which is a fungus-like eukaryotic microorganism. Oomycetes form the sporangium, which can produce either conidiospores, which are airborne, or mobile zoospores, which can travel through water. Once in contact with its host, the zoospore discards its flagella, which is its way of swimming and moving around, and forms a cyst. These cysts then germinate within the span of a few hours and form a germ tube, which allows the infection hyphae to enter the host through their stomata, which are the pores in which you take in oxygen and release CO2 during photosynthesis or cellular respiration. A mycelium forms and hyphae spreads between the leaf cells. Haustoria protrude from the hyphae and help the pathogen steal nutrients from the cell of the host plants, causing cells to die off and for discoloration to appear on the leaves of the infected plant. New sporangiophores develop out of the stomata to spread sporangia to even more plants. Alternatively, an apressorium forms and penetrates the host's epidermal cells. The apressorium is a localized swelling of the germ tube that creates enough turgor pressure that allows its hyphae to penetrate and enter cells. Infection spreads the fastest in damp and warm weather. After penetration, the hyphae continues to grow intracellularly, making its way in between the plant cell wall and the plasma membrane. The extrahaustorial matrix, or the EHMX, which is the space in between the haustorial wall and the plasma membrane, have protuberances that interlink with cavities in the cell wall. Research shows that this EHMX may be a vital site for secretion of proteins that lower plant immunity.
What do you mean his immunity is lowered? Does that mean he'll get sick easier?
Phytophthora infestans has a large genome with lots of sections for coding effector proteins. These effector proteins will secrete into the apoplastic and cytoplasmic spaces in host tissue, which causes plant infections by disrupting the host immune response. The genes that encode for this are located in repeat and transposon sequences, so it's constantly mutating and developing in order to best infect its host. The effector proteins target an alpha-beta hydrolase type encoding gene in potato STAB1, whose suppression promotes pathogen growth. The DNA content of P. infestans was significantly higher in the STAM microRNA plants when STAB1 was knocked down compared to STAB1 in wild-type potatoes, indicating its importance in preventing disease in plants.
Is there a cure to this horrifying disease? Will our son ever get better?
We're trying new methods to introduce dominant resistance genes, also known as RPI genes, to combat the disease, but new strains keep popping up. Right now, Yukon's immune system is trying to detect the conserved pathogen-associated molecular pattern, also known as PAMP, which triggers PAMP immunity, or PTI, when it is recognized by pattern recognition receptors in the plant. Phytophthora infestans will try to avoid PTI by secreting effector proteins into the host cells. This causes PRRs to be unable to recognize foreign PAMPs, which disrupts the immune response as the plant won't recognize that there is an invader. However, these effectors can get detected by the host's NLRs, which are the nucleotide binding site and leucine-rich repeats, which results in a second, faster level of activation in the host's immune response. Security, this is serious. It's a potato late blight case 112. I repeat, it's a PLB 112.
Mom! Dad!
Get away from him! What are you doing?
Sorry, ma'am, this is a serious matter. P. infestans is highly infectious and kills after 7 to 10 days. These windborne spores are deadly and clone themselves and infect whole acres of potatoes, just like Yukon. Once potatoes are infected by P. infestans, sexual spores such as oospores or asexual spores such as chlamydospores form in the potatoes and germinate to form more sporangia. This creates a vicious cycle that won't stop spreading unless we quarantine him. You can say your goodbyes over the phone, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately.
Our poor Yukon. I miss him already. We should have never enrolled him in those swim lessons.
This isn't our fault. We couldn't have known.
Honey, what's on your arm?